even though the cause might be the same, the view will be very, very different. I will try to make this case even little bit further, because when we spend little bit more time in understanding which angle we need to go about, not just looking at resilience, not just looking at our health, about everything, then there will be a total shift that can happen in our entire life, not just for this topic about resilience, not just about managing stress, but the rest of our lives. We need to make a shift in the way we are looking at it. So in a similar manner, we know one of the definitions and modern definitions of health is, how do we look at health? Like it's an, yes, absence of disease, and little bit more than that. And how does modern medicine look at this? The pathogenetic model looks at the causes of diseases, the causes of illnesses, and how can we cure the symptoms of the disease, symptoms of the illness. This is what is called the pathogenetic model, which is there everywhere. However, there is another way of looking at it, which is the salutogenic model, medicine in which we look at the wellness, the pathogenetic model looks at, because health is much more than just absence of disease. It looks about prevention. It looks about how to build immunity within ourselves so that we don't get the disease at all, and how can we know about more and more factors that will strengthen our well-being. This is a totally different approach altogether. In a similar manner, rather than learning how to manage stress at times like this, let us look at how do we build resilience, not just to cope at times like this, but how to be better than before, how to have a new normal. This we will look from positive psychology view. And I want to say even much more than positive psychology. That's why I've used the term positive psychology plus. What do I mean by that? So in regular clinical psychology, classic clinical psychology, they look at mental health and mental illnesses from the perspective of treating any of these mental health conditions just so the person comes back to near normal values. However, positive psychology takes a person who is fine, who is healthy, and sees how they can increase the quality of life of such people like us. What Yogakshema does and its approach is much more than both of these. We look at certain mental health conditions and try to see how we can look at this and become much better than what it was before. I'll just take an example, because we just completed a 5-day workshop on reprogramming our neurochemistry of the brain to overcome depression, because we know depression is caused by imbalance in the chemicals, right? The way we approach the issue of depression is to see how we can look at depression as though it is a blessing in our lives, so that we can lead a life much better than how it was before. This is the approach I would like to bring. And for that, There has to be a paradigm shift in the way we are looking at everything else. That is going deeper into why. Any scientist you ask, this is what they say. Always, science is about going deeper and deeper into why. And spirituality, of course, that is also going deeper into why within ourselves too, to go inward. So this is what we're going to do today for the rest of 60 minutes or so. And this is how the rest of the flow of the sharing, the talk is going to be. We're going to know what is resilience and what is not resilience, and various different kinds of resilience. And there are certain prerequisites to build up this resilience. And what is so unique about the building up resilience in the current time during this pandemic, what we are going through. And more importantly, even though we know all of this, we also have to understand what is it that is preventing us to be resilient, and what is the ultimate solution. And I'll conclude, especially keeping this women's empowerment group in mind. As I'm getting to know this group more and more, I'm trying to customize this mostly for this group. We will see. So let's go into looking at what is not resilience. Being resilient does not mean we don't go through difficult times. We don't go through difficulties in our lives. That is the first and foremost thing we need to know. And resilience is not necessarily only few people can possess. It's a particular trait in people. Only such people who have this personality trait will be able to build up resilience. And it is definitely not about toughing it out or reacting to every setback with, yes, I'll be able to do it, come what may. Not with that attitude and approach, just like that of a lone ranger, that machoistic attitude, pull ourselves with our bootstraps and then develop that kind of resilient mindset, saying that I will be able to face anything and everything. It is not even about that. It is not even just a state of being. It is to be resilient isn't to go back to being the way it was before. Without truly understanding what resilience means, we just want to try and go back to our old ways, our normal ways. But the new research on resilience shows it is none of this. Then what is it? If you ask any average person, this is what they say. To be resilient means to bounce back to the old ways. We can't wait to just go back to schools and have the same routines like we had. How can we just have the same old ways? Except that is not being resilient. It is not actually resilience at all. If that is the case, then what is it? What is resilience? Just simply put, it is to be better than before. Resilience is nothing but a set of skills that we need to hone these skills, and we can only do that through adversity, and we can become stronger than before. We need this adversity, we need certain emergencies, we need certain crises, we need certain changes that happen in our lives. in the society to be able to become resilient. This is the new definition of resilience, that it is a set of skills that we can develop through adversity. So resilience involves many of our actions, our behaviors, our thoughts, and our feelings that anybody can learn and develop. Such actions, such behaviors, such thoughts and feelings. And resilience is about transforming into a new normal. It is so very different than just managing stress, don't you see? This is what we're going to see, how to do that. So simply put, resilience refers to positive adaptation to some kind of adversity. So there are certain prerequisites to build resilience. And what are those? Two things that we need to know. One is to know ourselves at a deeper level. Why we are the way we are? Why is it so tough for us to do certain things that we need to be doing? And why is it so hard for us not to do certain things that we should not be doing? So truly knowing ourselves. And after knowing ourselves, to master ourselves. These two prerequisites we really need to know. So let us spend a couple of minutes on each one of this prerequisite. This is where I say have customized for this group because we have gone in greater detail in our last few sessions. So I will be talking at a meta level. What does it mean to know ourselves? It's nothing but to have a heightened self-awareness, to increase our self-awareness. Biologically, whether we know it or not, we are feeling beings. We are feeling beings, and we think once in a while we think, whether we know it or not. Because most of our time in a day, most of the time we spend on being on an autopilot mode. Rightly so, because it's very efficient. It conserves a lot of energy. However, just being in the autopilot mode, especially in an untrained mind, is what keeps us at the survival level, or what we call as a survival mode. And there are certain innate biases that are present in each and every one without any exception. Maybe a saint or a scientist, a doctor or a patient, a professor or a student, come what may, without any exception, each one of us have some innate and inherent biases, be it negative biases, cognitive biases, biases about our worldview. Many kinds of biases are innate within us that keeps us in the survival mode. So knowing ourselves is how can we be thinking more and more and more, thinking from a conscious manner, thinking in willful ways, thinking in deliberate manner. How can we think deliberately more and more and to come out of this unconscious biases that we have and to be overcoming these biases once we know ourselves? Again, knowing ourselves is to increase this self-awareness. So in between, this didactic, I'm going to put in many of the messages, mostly from Swami Vivekananda and other modern leaders, as I said. But just, you have heard many of these messages. I'll just touch upon it to try and see how we can understand the same thing what I'm talking about has already been said and been done and said, both in our culture and many other cultures too, not just in our culture and not just based on our scriptures. In many of the scriptures, they have been said in many different ways, but mostly I will try to hone in on Vivekananda's message for today. You have heard about this or read about this, which says, teach yourselves your real nature, your true nature, and call upon the sleeping soul and see how it wakes up. And power will come, glory will come, goodness will come, purity, and everything that is excellent will come when this sleeping soul is roused to self-conscious activity. We've heard this. Let us look at this from a scientific perspective. What he means, Swami Vivekananda means as self-conscious activity is nothing but self-awareness. The terminologies are different, but that self-conscious activity, what he means is nothing but self-awareness. And that too, that self-awareness comes again even before Vivekananda in our scriptures, which says, Arive Guru. Arivu is a Sanskrit term for awareness. And that awareness about ourselves becomes our own teacher. Awareness about our own real nature becomes our true teacher or our guru. So I just want to point these things out. But this quote by Swami Vivekananda, I don't see it many places, but this is one of my favorite quotes. You will see why. I'll read it out and point it out, how it is actually the seed for the idea of neuroplasticity. He says, we speak of many things parrot-like, but we never do them. Speaking and not doing has become a habit with us. And what is the cause of that? He says it is weakness. He says it's physical weakness. This sort of weak brain is not able to do anything. He adds, we must strengthen it. Let's pay attention to what he's saying. He's saying, have a strong brain. And how can we have a strong brain? Through strong mind. In my view, in my opinion, this is the seed for neuroplasticity, because William James, scientist, contemporary of Swami Vivekananda, he later on talks about plasticity of the brain, may not be using such words, but that is the idea that came about in the last century. That idea, I feel, probably because William James had met Swami Vivekananda. They were either met or he had heard and read about Vivekananda. This is for somebody to go deeper and explore and figure out, in my opinion, this is the seed for neuroplasticity, wherein he says, can you please mute your microphones, or can the host please keep an eye on it and please mute the microphones of from the audience. Thank you. As I was saying, this is the seed for the idea of neuroplasticity, wherein he says this weak brain has to be strengthened. Otherwise, we will just be talking, not following it up with action. And I have said this many a times. I'm going to repeat again in a few minutes. Just thinking positive is not going to be enough. Just feeling positively is not going to be enough. It has to be followed by positive actions. Then only rewiring of the brain happens. And then only can we see changes in our lives. Then only can we improve the quality of life. To me, this is the most important scientific message for neuroscientists, especially making this the seed of the idea for neuroplasticity. So we're still talking about the prerequisites of building resilience. The next aspect is mastering ourselves. We learned about knowing ourselves and mastering ourselves. Whatever I said just now, the neuroplasticity is nothing but to change our mind in a particular, effortful, deliberate ways, which over a period of time can change the very structure of the brain, and thereby we can change our lives. This whole process, as you know, is called neuroplasticity. I have done this for this group a few times, so I'm just going to breeze through this so that I can go deeper and I can go to meta level. So as I just said, having positive thoughts is not going to be enough. They have to be followed by positive feelings and, more importantly, positive actions. And the whole process is nothing but neuroplasticity. And for that, we need to learn from our past, whether our own past or past based on the ancient wisdom. And we need to know about our future, plan for the future, to be aware of the future. But all of this positive thoughts, feelings, and actions have to happen in the present moment. That is what mindfulness is all about, which is nothing but managing the now, keeping the past in mind, learning from our own experiences, and planning for the future, but acting on the now. That is mastering ourselves. So how do we manage this now? How do we master our own mind? And Swami Vivekananda says this mind has to be gradually and systematically brought under control. I would now just use the word train our minds in a systematic, gradual manner to be able to master ourselves. And whatever Vivekananda says in such simple terms has already been said in Bhagavad Gita, and especially in the Dhyana Yoga chapter in Bhagavad Gita, which says these two shlokas, which we are very familiar with, and especially if you have all been attending Swamiji's classes on Bhagavad Gita, you would, and other classes, no, not just Bhagavad Gita, he has not come to this chapter yet in Bhagavad Gita, but any other classes, if you have attended, that he has been conducting so many classes, these two are one of his favorite shlokas. He keeps repeating this again and again to tell us that nobody can help us. We need to redeem ourselves, and we need to come out of our own limitations by ourselves, using our own internal instrument, which is mind. And that mind of ours, if it is not trained, it can become our own enemy, and if trained properly, can become our own friend. So again, I like this statement of Vivekananda, what he talks about mind. Don't treat your mind like a dustbin to keep all these afflictive emotions like anger, hatred, jealousy, but make it, train your mind to be a treasure box wherein you can keep love, happiness, and sweet memories and treasure and nurture such healing emotions. How, in such simple terms, Swamiji has talked about the mind. So coming back, so what is this? What is it so distinct about this particular pandemic? Now we're getting into the main topic with all that introduction. It is now understanding the different types of resilience. There are few types, as you can see, starting with our own individual resilience. We need to build resilience at individual level. And especially pandemic like this, just building individual resilience is not going to be enough. We need to take care of our who we are living with, the family resilience. Again, taking care just of our families is not going to be enough. We need to be taking care of our community resilience. Again, taking care of just community is not going to be enough. We need to broaden to include organizational resilience and beyond, not just these four, beyond, at the level of our country. Again, developing resilience at the national level is not going to be enough. We need to go at international levels too. The only way we can overcome this pandemic and go through in a successful manner is by building mass immunity, which is again through vaccinations. And so just taking care of ourselves is not going to be enough. This is a beautiful way of putting into practice Vivekananda's message. Keep expanding. Expansion is life. This is how we need to look at resilience through much beyond what is usually said in our books. Not just stop at organizational resilience level, but also at the national level, at the level of humanity itself. How do we go beyond? Yes, we need to go beyond us. But we also need to go beyond now, thinking about the future, but yet acting again in the present moment. But to go beyond the present moment, to know the consequences of our actions, but acting the right way, the proper way in the present moment. And coming again, looking at resilience from a different perspective. There are different types of resilience again: psychological resilience, emotional resilience, physical resilience, and spiritual resilience. For all practical purposes, only for academicians, psychological and emotional resilience we need to be concerned about. But for all practical purposes, we can consider that as one and see how we can try to build up this emotional resilience and also spiritual resilience. So we will focus on these emotional and spiritual resilience, also resilience at individual level, family level, community level, and focus on the other types of emotional and spiritual resilience. This is what we're going to be focusing on. This we will do by combining the recent advances in scientific research based on ancient wisdom too. So how do we deal with this? How do we build resilience? If we can just think about these four factors and work towards this, I think we have like a magical formula here, which will cover not just this pandemic, not just this crisis, not just this changing time, but anything and everything that we may encounter in the future, because as scientists we know this is not the first pandemic that we are seeing, and this is not going to be the last one that we are going to be seeing. So these four factors, what is it? Having faith in ourselves and manifesting goodness in ourselves and in others, interconnectedness, and the concept of interdependence. I'm just going to quickly go through some of the quotes by both Vivekananda and our present Swamiji in charge here at Johannesburg, and also some other leaders, and come back to some scientific tools. So let us consider each one and then see, what does faith in oneself mean? Vivekananda has talked so much about faith. He says the history of the world is the history of a few men who had faith in themselves. This statement of Vivekananda reminds me also of Margaret Mead's statement, how she says, if you're thinking about bringing any change in the society, don't think on a few people can do. That is the only way. Only few people with strong conviction, when they believe in themselves, when they have faith in themselves, are the ones who can bring about any change, is what Margaret Mead says too. And I've just selected few quotes of Swami Vivekananda. He says, have faith in yourself because all the power is in you, and be aware of it. We need to be aware of the power that is within us, and we need to manifest that power that is already within us. First, we need to know that there is innate power within us, and then we need to know how to manifest that power. I always say, how do we know that we have that immense power? In a pure mathematical expression way, I take the example of the number of neurons that we have, and that we will be able to understand that immense power that we have within each and every one of us. And he says, if you don't believe in ourselves, we can definitely not be able to believe in God. Whichever way you're looking at God, there are many different ways of looking at God itself, and from many different angles. Whichever way you're looking, first have faith in yourselves. And having faith in oneself, our Swamiji here, Swami Swatma Ramanandaji, said this in just 3 simple words years back, and I have just gotten that, and I hold on to this. He said just 3 words, which is just belief in action is nothing but faith. That's a Sanskrit word for that, is Shraddha. See, again, he has put Vivekananda's quote that I read, we are like parrot-like, we just repeat words, but we don't follow it up with action. All of that, and what I say in a scientific way, just positive thoughts are not enough. Positive feelings and positive actions have to ensue. There's 3 words. This again talks about the formula for neuroplasticity in action, which is nothing but Shraddha. We need to put into action whatever we believe, and then only rewiring of the brain happens. Then the structure of the brain changes, and so does our life itself changes to a positive angle. Again, talking from one of our modern leaders' perspective, he says very simply how we can so easily understand faith is taking that very first step. Even when you don't see the whole staircase, You still know that there is the whole staircase and there is a goal to reach. You have a place to go. And knowing that, but without seeing that, just take that first step. That is faith. And the second aspect is manifesting goodness in self and in others. Vivekananda has beautifully said, very simply, be good and do good. Be good, that will bring a positive change in your life. But just being good is not enough. We need to do good, because this is where it makes a difference to the society itself. This definition or this message of Vivekananda, be good, do good, is a segue to the next two factors of interconnectedness and interdependence, that which we will see. So again, Vivekananda's statements, very simply, 4 words: be good, do good. This is manifesting goodness in ourselves and in others. This is nothing but, again, scientific way of saying positive thoughts are not enough. They have to be followed by positive feelings, and more importantly, with positive actions. Again, what I learned from this Swamiji, which is nothing but just 3 words. This can be our mantra. We can do anything and everything. Belief in action. Whatever you believe, put it into action right away. And of course, he says this in his own way of beautifully narrating the story, which I won't go into. You got to listen from him, especially about Ravana's story, what he says, how important it is to put into action, especially the positive things, how you need to put it into action right away, not especially only the positive things that are in our mind. We need to put it into action right away. Belief in action, which is a segue to understanding interconnectedness and interdependence. This is nothing but going into modern leaders. John Muir, he was a naturalist. He was called John of the Mountains, or the father of national parks. He showed his spiritual quality towards nature. And he talked about the oneness with the earth. There are different people who portray the same message that we learn in our scriptures. These modern scientists, they convey this message and put it into action in many different ways. How beautifully he says, if you tug one little thing in nature, you find it is attached to the rest of the world. He's a naturalist, but this is the essence of the concept of modern physics, also the quantum physics, which is what the next quote by Fritjof Capra talks about, who was a physicist, a modern physicist. He looked at modern physics by looking or by changing the worldview from a mechanistic perspective to a holistic perspective, and also went further, looking at it from an ecological perspective too. And he also uses in his book, The Tao of Physics, which is so popular amongst others. He brings about the metaphor of cosmic dance, in which he represents the Tandava Nritya of Shiva and uses that as a metaphor, and he goes further. All of this for us to make us understand the interconnectedness of beings. First, at the human level, we are all connected with each other, whether we know it or not. Not only are we connected amongst each other, but also with nature. We are very much connected with the nature. This is what our scriptures have talked about, that close connection between the Pancha Mahabhutas in the nature and ourselves. And not only that, each and everything, even non-living things, actually, we are very much connected with all of this. This is again in your own culture, in South African culture, it talks about, in even simpler terms, the Ubuntu concept. Just saying, I am because of you. Such profound messages done in such simple ways for us to understand the interconnectedness of beings. And lastly, the interdependence again goes with, I'll quickly go through this with few quotes of interdependence is of a higher value and higher order than being independent. And Stephen Covey, decades back in US, when I was there, he had influenced me a lot with many of his books, the 7 habits of all different headings, of effective people, of effective families, effective teenagers, and whatnot. He also says interdependence is a choice only independent people can make. It is such an important aspect for us to understand and follow this law of interdependence. So interdependent people combine their own efforts with the efforts of others to achieve great success in their lives. So with this, we have talked about these 4 factors: having faith in oneself, manifesting goodness in ourselves and in others, and about understanding the concept of interconnectedness and interdependence. Then how do we do this to build up resilience? Very simple. All you need to do is to think about 3 things again. Those 4 factors and 3 domains to build resilience. Very simply, eat well, eat a little less than what is necessary, sleep really well, and move about a lot. This we can customize for ourselves. We can experiment on ourselves. We can get many number of things on the internet or based on our own culture within the family or in the community. Whatever you want to try with eating, just make sure not to leave out one aspect of any nutritional aspect in order to either lose weight or gain weight. Don't have those shallow goals, but go deeper into think about truly building resilience. Eat well, balanced, nutritious food, and eat just a tiny bit less than what you really need. Eating less than what we need really helps us. We can go at length for each one of these, but just for now, this is enough. We can take it up later on if need be during the Q&A session. And very important to have good sleep hygiene. It is so hard, especially times like this. It is so hard to sleep at certain times and to get up at certain times when you don't have to dress up and go for work, go out, it is very tough. So how do we make it a practice to get up at the same time every time? If we have that, everything else will fall in place. Have that aspect of to getting up at the same time every day. Yes, you might sleep a little bit late one day or 2 days, but as long as you're getting up at the same time each time, every time, then automatically you will adjust what time you go to bed, as long as you keep that waking up time as a constant. This is what we call it as sleep hygiene. Build good habits, sleep hygiene habits, and the usual, we know all of this. And Yogakshema has put forth a lot of these things, even last year, as different ways of coping with COVID challenges. We took it as 21 days challenge to face this COVID-19. And we have many more tips there, which you can easily access on the net. And very importantly, increase your physical activity. Extremely important. Again, the new research shows not moving, not having enough physical activity is as bad as smoking one pack of cigarette for so many years. Whatever harm one packet of cigarette does for so many years, the same harm will be done if we do not move around, if we become couch potatoes. So with that taken care of, as I said earlier, we need to understand what is it that prevents us to be truly resilient. We understood what is resilience means, what is not resilience, types of resilience, and what are the domains that we need to work on, the 3 domains that we need to work on to build up resilience, and the most important 4 factors: having faith in ourselves and manifesting goodness in others and in ourselves, first in ourselves and then in others, and truly understanding the interconnectedness and interdependence. Even knowing all of this, I can assure you we will try. And then again, somewhere, some hurdles will come, and then we go back to our old ways. So as much as important for us to know how to be resilient, we also need to know what is it that prevents us to be resilient? What is it that prevents us to go back to the new normal ways? And this you have heard many times, so I'm going to quickly go through at a different level so that you have heard about this concept, but it is so important and it needs to be reinforced again and again and again. Then only we will be convinced beyond doubt. And the Sanskrit term for that is what is called as jnana nishtha. We need to be convinced beyond doubt, so that I keep bringing this up again and again, that each and every one of us have this negativity bias. As I said earlier, without any exception, each and every one of us has this. What does this negativity bias mean? That we get many thoughts, we get many feelings, we have different experiences. Whatever those negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative experiences, all of those, they get stuck like Velcro to our mind and our brain. Whereas this positive thoughts, positive feelings, positive emotions, positive experiences, they get washed off like the non-stick material that we use on the non-stick pan in the kitchen, the Teflon material. Like Teflon, it gets washed away. We don't need to feel bad because this is the way, and there is a reason for it. This is what helps us to really survive in this dog-eat-dog world. But this exactly is preventing us to truly evolve into better beings, to truly manifest that goodness that is already within us so that we can also help manifest goodness in others. But more importantly, this is what prevents us to become and to build more and more resilience in ourselves, in our families, at the community level. So much so, what happens because of this negativity bias? Because most of the negative thoughts get stuck in at the level of mind and brain. Those thoughts, they pile up, they get accumulated. And these thoughts, they're called as automatic negative thoughts. As you can see in the picture, this automatic negative thoughts is an acronym ANT, A-N-T. Just like we see in nature, different types of ants, in a similar way, we have different types of negative thoughts, which we have gone through in the older sessions. And you can go through that also on even Yogakshema's YouTube channel, not website. Our website is not ready yet, so that you can go deeper into these. What are those different various types of automatic negative thoughts and all? But I just want to go at a meta level saying that these automatic negative thoughts, from now on, I'm going to call them as ants. When they go unnoticed and unchecked, when they go unnoticed, when we don't have that self-awareness. When do we not have that self-awareness? When we don't know about ourselves. So when we have less of self-awareness, these ants get unnoticed and unchecked, and that is why they pile up as grooves in our mind. When that happens, these ants, automatic negative thoughts, they affect our coping mechanisms, they affect our learning of new things, they affect our relationships. In fact, they affect our entire life itself. Again, those automatic negative thoughts, when they go unchecked and unnoticed, when they get accumulated so much so, we go through life like a pendulum, going back between our past and our future, never staying in the present moment. And we go through the past with full of regrets when we have too many of these ants, or our future is filled with fear and anxiety and pessimism, which prevents us to be in the present moment. Because it has its energy of its own, it picks up the momentum and keeps going back and forth. If at all we are able to keep that focus in the present moment, we feel because of these unchecked ants, the present moment is never satisfactory to us. We have everything, but still we feel restless. We don't know what is happening. That unsatisfactoriness, that restlessness of the present. For many people, even though having everything, still feels unsatisfactory. This concept of bias or these ants, automatic negative thoughts, is what prevents us to be in the present moment, here and now and here. Extremely important concept for us to understand and be convinced beyond doubt, to have that jnana nishta. Because our mind keeps going back to, yes, I know, but this is what happened in my past and cannot get rid of it. And because we get so used to this, it's going to be hard for us to come out, because that becomes a habit, a thought habit. But the only way out of this is through knowledge. Because if we really again go a bit deeper and see, this past and future, they are only our mental constructs. Whenever things are happening, it can only happen in the present moment, not even today. Only in the present moment. We have no idea what is going to happen for the next moment. The present moment is only what we have. And life happens only in the present moment. Even if this little fact, this little concept, scientific concept, if we can understand, it is very profound. That means we need to take care of our lives just one moment at a time, because only this moment is what is certain in our lives. And this moment is when life happens. Otherwise, life happens only at the level of mind. This is really, really profound. Please keep reflecting on this and keep trying to come back to this present moment. And how to be in the present moment is where we are going to use the tool and understand. So because of these unchecked ants, we keep giving these umpteen reasons, which are nothing but excuses. Ultimately, when we cannot find anything, we will really easily say, oh, it's all of this because of this pandemic. I should have put that one. But we can easily, and it is a reason, of course, but it has become an excuse. How do we come out of all of this? Because before, how do we come out? What happens because of this unchecked and unnoticed automatic negative thoughts? We cannot be proactive. We know what we should be doing, but yet we keep putting things off. We procrastinate. We shy away from our own responsibilities. That is why the fear sets in. And we cannot learn new things easily, and more importantly, in a joyous manner. Even if we learn, only because we have to learn. We cannot learn in a joyous manner. Because of all of this, we cannot change easily. Even if we want to be, we cannot be what we want to be. But mind you, there is no magic pill or an injection or a vaccine that we can get, that we can take it and get rid of this negativity bias and these automatic negative thoughts. The only way is to be able to build this knowledge. So again, continuing with what happens with those unchecked ants, we cannot be kind to ourselves. We cannot be loving to ourselves. So as a result of that, we cannot be empathetic and as understanding of others, let alone we cannot even understand our own selves. Because of that, we cannot understand others. So we get stuck in that old groove, the past memories. We get stuck because of that. Because of this negativity bias, it prevents us. Again, not to feel bad. This is the way it is for everybody. And many a times we need this repetition. And that is where even in our scriptures it is said, repetition is necessary. It says, asakrut avruttihi upadeshat, or is it avruttihi asakrut upadeshat? That is why you will see the same, especially the negative bias concept, you will see in each and every neuroscience talk, lecture, keynote address, workshop, whatever we do, this aspect comes about because it is not that easy to overcome. That is another time why it is so easy. There is neurological, neurobiological evidence for this, but this is not the time and place for that. I'm sure we will get another time as we are going deeper and deeper to understand ourselves in a scientific manner. That is what we are doing with these talks that are arranged by Women's Empowerment Group. What you are understanding through Swamiji's lectures, either through Great Master or through Bhagavad Gita or through Jnana Yoga talks, the same we are learning about understanding ourselves and mastering ourselves from a scientific perspective. And maybe I would wish for a day that what Swamiji and I can do, combining, not just me combining science and spirituality, Swamiji talking about Vivekananda's message, can combine it in a scientific way and then understand. I think there is a first time for everything. That would be wonderful if we can do that. So what happens because of this? Our self-awareness goes down. Because of self-awareness going down, we have more of ants. And because we have more ants, our self-awareness goes down. So it becomes a vicious circle. So this is what Vivekananda talks about, self-conscious activity. So because of that, we get into this black and white thinking, which is nothing but polarized thinking. And we cannot see choices. And we cannot see when there are many possibilities waiting to happen, but we cannot see. And very easily, and rightly so, because it's so easy, we keep blaming either on ourselves or on others, and especially on the external circumstance like the pandemic situation. And we definitely keep defending ourselves through illogical, logical ways. We keep defending ourselves. So how do we overcome this? Just by saying, these are just bad brain habits. We just need to change this little bad brain habit, that everybody's brain has this bad brain habit, not just few of us. Just saying that, keeping it in a low-key manner is what will help. But there is always saving grace by nature, which is most of these ants are false. This is a saving grace. Most of the automatic negative thoughts are false. And these bad brain habits, because it's a habit, this self-talk goes about all the reasons and excuses we saw, it happens as self-talk. We need to watch out what we are saying, because we are listening to the same negative thoughts too. Watch out for that. And just saying most of these ants are false, that is enough. And you can put that into a test whether it is true or false. Most likely for most of these ants, you will come about and say, I don't know. That itself will lose the power. So with that aspect of what prevents us to be resilient and to have faith in ourselves and to manifest the goodness both in us and in others, and to truly understand the interconnectedness and interdependence, we saw what was preventing us. It is just because of the bias. So only through knowledge can we figure out the solution. And what type of knowledge? Again, just like as I said, understanding, we just did that, understanding the interconnectedness and interdependence of everything and anything that is under the sun, everything is interconnected and so interdependent. Just that is not going to be enough, but figuring out the meaning and purpose of life. As Vivekananda says, the meaning and purpose of our life, we already said the purpose of life is education. Education, again, he defines as manifesting the perfection that is already within us. If he says that in the scriptural way, we can say from the scientific way, the meaning and purpose of life, there could be many different purposes depending on what stage in our life we are at. But ultimately, there is only one purpose for all human beings, whether we know it or not. And that is to evolve into better human beings. If we can understand that final ultimate purpose of all human beings to be able to be better human beings, which is nothing but to evolve with this knowledge, then how can we go fast and how can we go far? You know, they say, if you really want to just go fast, then just go alone. But if you want to go far, if you really want to evolve as a better human being for life, then working as a team, working in a team is what helps, and which is that individual work or effort is much greater than that of a group, because there is synergy. This is where I bring back to your group, Women's Empowerment Group. This is where you have the power of being in the group, being in the community, not just in your individual families, but in the community of Women's Empowerment Group, which is part of this Ramakrishna Center in Johannesburg. This is where at an individual level, work on yourselves at an individual level so you can go fast, but work together in the Women's Empowerment Group, which belongs to the Ramakrishna Center, which comes under the Ramakrishna Mutt and Mission, wherein we can truly be going far as a group. And this is what the whole crux of being interdependent and independent. And that is what has been said by the scientist, Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who popularized the MBSR program, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program. He says, ultimately, you know, this spirituality simply means experiencing this wholeness and interconnectedness and seeing that individuality and totality are interwoven and nothing is separate or outside of us. And if you see it in this way, then everything becomes spiritual in its deepest sense. And doing science is spiritual. Doing dishes is spiritual. Taking care of the garden is spiritual. Anything becomes spiritual. And what he has said in modern days, this is what our Swamiji has been talking about in all his lectures. Whether he says nothing is separate or extraneous, is with what John Kabat-Zinn says. This is what Holy Mother Sharda Devi says, nobody is a stranger, my child. This is in her last message. Nobody is a stranger, my child. And Nivedita's message about Vivekananda, She says there is no difference between something that is secular and sacred in Vivekananda. Everything is harmonious. There is no difference. And that is what now the present day scientists are talking about. This is what spirituality means. And that is what mindfulness means, which is the tool that we are going to be using. So whatever I have talked about is all for this little tool that we are waiting for. And if we know this much, this is enough to understand this tool of mindfulness, to help us to train our minds through mindfulness. It's so powerful. I've filtered it down to very simple ways. What is enough? Just this is enough. Just if you avoid 2 days in your life, that is enough. What are those 2 days that you want to avoid? Yesterday and tomorrow. Because yesterday and tomorrow only exist in our minds. When we are going through these 2 days, yesterday or tomorrow, that was today or that will be today. Yes, grammatically it cannot be correct. That is the fun of it. So all we need to do is to avoid 2 days, yesterday and tomorrow. That means we need to focus just on today, and not even just on today, only this moment, here and now and here. That is the ultimate solution to train ourselves to be in the present moment. Learning from the past, planning for the future, but to be here now. To be here. How? In the now. That is how to manage that now is what is mindfulness is all about. And we have talked about mindfulness is just to be in the present moment in a non-judgmental manner. I've talked about this many a times. Another way of looking at mindfulness is this nothing but it's a distorted perception of the reality that hurts us more than the reality itself. Even what we're going through right now in the pandemic times, because all of us are learning, starting from scientists, doctors, patients, everybody is learning about this pandemic. So sometimes the truth may be distorted without people's knowledge many a times. So that is what is hurting us than the reality itself. Because many a times we want the reality as we want it to be, rather than accepting the reality as it is. That is what hurts us. So to be mindful is to train ourselves to accept the reality as it is, not the way we want it to be. And also to let go of our own excuses and to be doing the right thing, not choosing just the things that we want to do. Many a times we don't want to do the things we have to do, but we want to be doing things that we want to do. Letting go of that, because we are our own limitations. We don't have external limitations, you know. So to let go of our own excuses and to be doing the right thing each time and every time is what being mindfulness is all about. So just doing the right thing. So I just have a few more minutes to complete, if I may, as the organizers. Do I have about 5 to 7 minutes to complete?
Om Ushama, yes, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So from I've been saying we need to work this moment and we need to work on ourselves, right? From that, working on ourselves to working on others. How do we do that? So we need We need to understand few of the traits that we need to develop to be resilient. The first and foremost thing is to be compassionate, first to ourselves, so that we can be compassionate to others, and to develop genuine appreciation of others, not at the level of you scratch my back and so will I scratch your back, but true, genuine appreciation and unconditional benevolence is what we need to develop. And when we do all of this, then we will be free of enmity within. And especially during these days, pandemic days, especially at crisis, even for the best of us, we get into polarized way of thinking and try to put the blame on somebody, some society, some community. Instead of that, can we try and start looking from the solution perspective rather than from the problem perspective, so that it helps to develop equanimity. So for this, we have few rewiring tools for the brain to become better than before. As I said, we need to be eating properly, have sleep hygiene, and to move more and more, increase our physical activity. Along with that, to develop an attitude of gratitude. I have been saying this again and again for this group. There are many more rewiring tools for this aspect. We will stick to this, developing an attitude of gratitude, and to develop forbearance, immense patience of whatever we need to go through in current times, especially in current times. And that we can see by developing mindfulness, we can do all of this. And all of this, if we just do once in a while, a day here, just like a weekend athlete, it won't help. But to do it again and again and again, to be practicing again is what matters. So the ultimate solution is to be in the moment, here and now and here, and to be doing the right thing. So to conclude, resilience is all about being better than before, and also to get a new normal, to transfer ourselves to get to that new normal, being better than before. And for that, we need to lead a life of an authentic life, which we can lead if we let go of our own excuses. We are our own limitations. And when we do that, but of course, we still have to work at our own level, but also see the results at the community level. As Mahatma Gandhi says, you be the change that you wish to see in the world. And combine that with Vivekananda's saying, manifest that goodness in you and in others. That again, Yogakshema's way, scientific way of doing that is on a moment to moment basis. And literally 2 more minutes, I'll finish this up. This is the greatest lesson that we can learn from COVID-19. And this message, especially for this women's empowerment group. We've all heard about the Declaration of Independence in US, right? We know what it stands for. And to just paraphrase that Declaration of Independence, it is all about that men are created equal, and this truth that men are created equal is a self-evident fact, and it is our birthright to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. This is the Declaration of Independence of United States. I want to take this as an opportunity to see, can we change that Declaration of Independence of what is said in US to Declaration of Interdependence of Humanity for the pursuit of healthier and happier life. In fact, it is not even the pursuit. If we understand this power of interconnectedness, then we can understand the nature of interdependence, which is of a higher order. If we combine this with Swami Vivekananda's message that we are created equal, what it says in US Declaration of Independence, Vivekananda says, yes, we are created equal, but much more than that, we are created as divine beings. It's that same divinity which is within all of us. And this is the ultimate truth, is what Vivekananda says. And this is what helps us to understand this interconnectedness and interdependence with conviction. And when we do this understanding, when this understanding goes deeper, and when we declare this as a declaration of interdependence, then happiness ensues. We don't even need to pursue happiness. And with this, I'm just going to leave this last slide again for this women's group. And with this, I'm going to close. Thank you. This is what Yogakshema says. Make the journey as your destination. Path becomes the goal. And let whatever journey that we are going through, that will bring the strength in us. Thank you.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Thank you, Dr. Vasthare. That was an inspiring talk. I think our heads are so heavy with all the beautiful knowledge that you're giving us. And some of our participants have some lovely questions for you. So I'm going to pass it through on to you. I'm going to say it one time, and if you need me to go through it slower, please let me know.
Sure.
First question, Om Vasthare. I find being away from people and the office has made me extra sensitive, especially with people's tone and the subtle things that is said and not said. This often upsets me. How do I detach from this and look beyond this?
A really good question. See, many a times we won't be able to know the feelings of a person when we read things as messages on social media or just read the email. Many times it depends on our mood. Depending on our mood, we color it as we read the messages. That is what is tough. Again, this is where being mindful is what is going to help the most. And being mindful just at that moment is going to be hard. We need to be practicing minimum of 5 minutes every day just to focus on our breath, which is what helps us to bring both the body and mind together in the same place. That will help us focus and also help to witness our thoughts as we focus on our breaths. The lot of thoughts do come in, and just witness those thoughts without reacting those thoughts during those 5 minutes every day. This is what will help you to read people's messages, or when you talk over the phone, in an objective manner. This is what mindfulness is all about, to be objective, not to hear the messages or somebody's talk or read the messages with colored glasses. That means in an emotional manner. So two things: having the knowledge of the negativity bias, which is what makes us to bring some emotions unnecessarily that may not be there. That is what we call it as coloring the facts because of the negativity bias. And the way to overcome that is by training ourselves to just look at things in an objectified way, witnessing. When you are in a conversation, witnessing rather than quick to react. Many a times we listen to react, we listen to reply rather than listen to understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vasthare. I see our revered Swami Swatmaramanandaji Maharaj is also online. I just want to greet him. Om Namo Narayanaya Maharaj. Do you want to say a few things before we go to the next question?
No, please continue with the question.
Thank you, Maharaj. Dr. Vasthare, a second question we have is, there are many people who talk about being able to sleep less hours and actually stay active and vigilant and healthy. Isn't resilience also about being able to sleep less and still be able to remain fine? How are they able to sleep less hours and still be fine?
True. It's again a very good question. Yes, resilience is about having less sleep and still be able to be active, or at times with less resources too, it is possible to be active. But if you're not trained to have less sleep, it will take a toll over a period of time. But the way I look at it, when people can be active, either with less sleep or being active for more number of hours, the key to this is being mindful. Because when we are mindful, our energies is not lost because of figuring out and analyzing all those negative thoughts and feelings, and to try to keep ourselves afloat, try to be positive. It is those managing those negative emotions and feelings and thoughts these are the energy suckers. That is what makes us more tired. If we have practiced mindfulness breathing on a regular basis over a period of time, I'm sure there are many practitioners, meditation practitioners here, they will vouch for this. After having practiced for years and years, it is what we do every day, every experience. It is not just about that starting with 5 minutes to going up to 20 minutes to half hour, or at the most 1 hour of meditation that gives us the energy. The result of that is how we work anything and everything, be it me doing the dishes or analyzing the accounts detail for the company, or anything that we do. When we do it in a mindful manner, this is what leaves us with lot more energy at the end of the day. And even with less number of hours of sleep, one can be much more efficient. Another great question. Thank you. We can go to the next question if there are any, and if we have the time.
Oma, we still have 30 minutes.
Okay. Do you have any more questions?
Ma, I think there's a little technical difficulty. Nick Bai will come on now.
Maybe I can add until Nick sorts out the technical issues. Let me know, Nick. I will stop. We can move on to the next question. But until then, along with this, if we watch out what we eat, the quality of the food and the quantity also, if we make it a practice to eat little bit less than what we really are used to, this again gives lot of energy. And this I've experienced when you go through the naturopathic way of any kind of treatment. This is one of the things they believe in, fasting a lot. And
If we make
unlike conventional,
then what we really are
unlike we are under a misconception saying when we fast we're going to be tired, but when we fast we actually gain lot more energy, and not just energy, even become healthier. And there is a scientific basis for that. This is not the time and place for this, but through a process called what is called
Dr.
autophagy.
Usha.
Yeah. Now the technical thing is fixed, Ashika.
Dr. Usha.
Yes.
We have a question here.
Sure.
So out. How do you get your family to see things differently if they have a negative mindset? So how do you get others to change their innate biases and negative thoughts?
I always say this is only through knowledge. So you have to somehow make them either go through some of the videos or attend talks like this and be convinced. The way to do it is through knowledge. And that knowledge they have to go through. That is what is empowering, you know. We need to put in that effort to understand, cognize, comprehend, and practice to be able to overcome. For that, we need that conviction. We need to understand beyond any doubt. That is why this is my style, to keep going to deeper. Why? And how becomes easy.
Okay, next question, Dr. Usha. How do you detox your mind to be ready for positive thinking? So what are some of those easy practices that people can follow, similar to how you would do a detox? How would you detox your mind?
I cannot find anything easier than working at the level of mind, because I won't ask you to do anything extra. All you have to do is to make a paradigm shift in the way you're looking at things, or as soon as you're aware of a negative thought or a negative feeling, just change it. As simple as that. Simple, but not easy. This is where we need deeper and deeper conviction. With that conviction, then we need to put our belief into action. And no other shortcut way, easy way, simple way is this. I would call it simple, but not easy. But if we enjoy this, then it becomes easier.
Okay, our next question is, how do you stay resilient when almost everything is outside of your control?
Because to be resilient, we are using our inner resources. We are developing thoughts, feelings, habits, actions. Our behaviors have to change irrespective of what is happening outside. So the complete control is within us. And yes, the food, whatever that may be outside, but the decision, how much to sleep, how much to eat, what to eat, it's still coming within. We have not, whatever I have talked about is all about developing resilience at the individual level from inside out, if you notice. So the thing that will help for this is to be able to remind ourselves of the serenity prayer, which is again one of my favorites. And I again say it's a very highly neuroscientifically applicable prayer, wherein you ask for God for help. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, which is all the external circumstances, including the people in our house. Accept them the way they are, not the way you want them to be. Accept them the way they are, and give us the courage to change the things I can. The courage and the tools we have given, everything starts from within. So we need to make up our mind to be able to change and to know the difference. What is it we can change and what is it that we cannot? Which means, just like in the question itself, there is answer. Whatever we have outside, those circumstances, situations, and people are beyond our control. What is under my control is me, which is my mind, and only this moment is under my control. This is again very profound. Only my mind is in my control. And even that mind, when can I use that mind? Only this moment. Only this moment is in my control, and my mind is in my control. And if we can take care of these two, everything else will fall in place. So profound, so deep, so simple, but yet difficult until and unless you have that jnana nishtha, conviction beyond doubt. That's why I keep saying this Yogakshema's way, moment to moment to moment, keep evolving on a moment to moment basis. It's not a stage to reach. Even being resilient is not a stage to reach. But we need to keep building this up on a moment to moment to moment basis, because it's at the thought level, at the feeling level, at the action level, and that can only happen in the now. The only thing that is certain is our mind and this moment. If you can understand these two, it's very simple.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Usha. So we've got some very positive feedback we've received on YouTube as well. One of the questions that was posted is, Usha Ma, how do we deal with people talking negative things all the time?
Negative things of?
They speak negatively all the time. How do you deal with those people?
Forbearance, immense patience, and we just need to put more effort, that's all. Not that it is impossible. By developing more and more forbearance, again through knowledge, being mindful at that time. I would like this person or these people to be more positive, but that is an expectation. That means I'm looking at the reality, or I want the reality the way I want it to be, but You cannot. Being mindful is accepting the reality as it is, accepting the people, this is how they are, and figure out ways and means how to stay positive in the midst of negativity. Then it will bring lot of confidence within you. Starts off as confidence, and when you're happy doing this, hopefully, and I think it will happen in an organic way, that they will also try seeing the positivity in you and would want to follow. To that level, we need to be mindful and to be positive. It will be tough, but it is possible.
Okay, Usha, then the last question. Managing negative self-talk is difficult when you have been saying the same negative messages to yourself for years. How do you overcome this?
Yeah. First and foremost, again, when we keep going into the why deeper and deeper, again, a community like this Women's Empowerment Program, this is where you get the synergy. A lot of people, when they learn these concepts, whether scientific concepts or Vivekananda's teachings that are given incessantly every day of the week, being reinforced again and again. And when we understand our true nature, then it is hard to be negative on ourselves. But we have to have faith in ourselves. It won't happen overnight. As long as we are doing the right things, understanding both scientifically our true nature and from the scriptural perspective, both together brings that synergy. It will happen one day or other. At many times it would have happened. Again, because of our bias, we overlook that. Again, training ourselves to all those little steps wherein we were positive, all the little wins we need to be focusing on, and that is what will give us the confidence. And it is possible and it will happen. So be kind to yourself. To be more loving to yourself is the key for this. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Vasthare. It's Nick back here. Thankfully, I managed to get my generator on. Welcome to our beautiful country, South Africa. I lost power there. I've got another important question here from one of our participants. And he asks, can you please explain how interdependence is higher than independent?
Sure.
Interdependence is one who dependent on each other. He also asked that maybe you can answer, and also if Swamiji can also take up the question as well.
Yeah, mine will be very simple. I'll just say this and then I'll hand it over to Swamiji. I would love to hear that also. Anything in nature, if you see it, is kind of cyclical, right? Just take water cycle. In that water cycle, everything is dependent on the other thing. In the same way, the food that we have on the table, if you think the chain of events and the people that are needed to bring that table or the food on the table, it's very easy to see the interdependence of things in nature, and especially of the people and everything else for that matter. Even if one or two people in that chain is severed, we will see the effect right away. Think about the farmer, the food that is grown in the fields, in the farmer's field, how it brings, by the time it comes to the table, all the steps in between, you'll be able to understand the interdependence in a very simple manner. And back to Swamiji, I would love to hear his say.
Okay, Swamiji, please can you also answer? I'll ask it again, so you'll just hear it again.
Yeah, I want the question again.
Okay, Maharaj, here's the question. Can you please explain how interdependence is higher than independent? One who is interdependent is one who is dependent on each other.
Yeah, nothing is greater, nothing is smaller. It is just like we have so many trillions or billions or tetratrillions of cells in our body. And the whole system we called human being or our body, now each cell are independently working and they are all doing the work for the sake of this whole body or me. So independence comes with interdependence, and interdependence is also dependent upon your independence. So it should be always harmonious. It is for each other. If you want independence, if you want to be an independent being, then you know that the society has to give you the police force, the society has to give you the legal protection and everything for you to be independent. So you have to be interdependent upon the society. So likewise, they are even independence is interdependent on what you call the whole society and everything. So nothing is greater, nothing is smaller. You can get independence by interdependence, just like the wonderful example is given by Ramakrishna Paramahamsa by the what you call example of a cow and the thread given to it. Now the owner of the cow gives the tether or the length of the thread for the cow to graze nicely. So use that independence to eat it properly wherever you have got that independence. Then if you bleat or if you make sound, the owner of the cow, the cow herd will come and see that it is properly eaten, use this independence nicely, and he will let it more freedom, let it more freedom, let it more freedom, finally completely liberate it. So you are again dependent upon the cow's freedom is dependent upon the owners giving you the freedom. So likewise, how well you make of your independence to work for the whole society gives you more independence, and again you are dependent upon the society. So it's a harmonious combination. Nothing is greater, nothing is smaller. Both are interdependent. You can get more independence by interdependence.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Dr. Vasthare. I've got some responses here on the chat group, and they say excellent responses, excellent answers. We really appreciate it. And again, thank you, J. Ramakrishna. I think if there's no more questions, Ashika? From my side, there isn't any more. I think we're going to move on to Aarti Jagwant, who's going to do the closing address. Or maybe Swamiji might want to say a few words before we do the final thank you and closing.
No, I think we have completed our limit of time for you have crossed it. So better we can conclude.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Dr. Vasthare. Aarti will do the closing and the thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Aarti Jagwant, and I will be contributing to the concluding remarks for today's program. On behalf of the Ramakrishna Center of South Africa, Johannesburg Sub-Center, Women's Empowerment Group, I would like to thank each and every one of you for participating and taking benefit of this seminar. The intent of the seminar was to help individuals and families become more resilient during times of change. We hope that the tools and techniques provided will assist you with family, work, and life in general. We express our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Usha Vasthare, an internationally acclaimed neuroscientist, teacher, writer, and social worker. We appreciate you freely sharing the latest research and thinking on resilience during times of change using a mindfulness based approach. We extend our heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to revered Swami Satmaramananda Ji Maharaj for his continuous guidance and support in ensuring the successful execution of these programs. We thank Mr. Randhir Nick Kiswan for supporting us with the Zoom platform and managing the technological aspects of the seminar. Kindly note that we host a number of workshops and programs related to family development and well-being throughout the year. As we value your input and suggestions, an evaluation form will be sent to you after this event to provide feedback to enable us to produce user-centric programs when considering topics and content for future seminars. As we officially close today's program, we would like to thank you for your participation and contribution of the event's success. Let us live. Let us take care of our lives one moment at a time. Om Namo Narayanaya.
Thank you so much, Aarti. Dr. Vasthare, I think Aarti has said it all. You have been an inspiration to a lot of us here, to all of us that have joined. And every time, I remember we did the previous seminar, and we really, really enjoyed the talk. The information that was presented was clear, concise, and easy to understand. And I think for us, sitting at home with COVID-19 and with all the pandemic, that people are really struggling to come to terms with the reality now, as you explained it earlier about the today rather than the yesterday and tomorrow. We have to come to terms with this reality, and we appreciate your time and effort that you put in. I know the Women's Empowerment Group will carry on doing good work. And very soon, we'll have another seminar with you giving us more advice and motivating us as well. From my side, I want to thank you on behalf of the Ramakrishna branch in Johannesburg, the sub-center, and also greetings to our Swami Swatma Ramanandaji Maharaj. I don't know if anybody else has got anything to say, and maybe Dr. Vasthare, you can do a final closing.
It's truly a pleasure to be sharing the recent advances in neuroscience research with this group, Women's Empowerment Group, and that too under Swami Swatma Ramanandaji's mentorship and guidance. It is truly a privilege and a blessing is what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you all, and good afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your day.